So a fantastic set of results that came through, a massive increase across the board. Well, would you argue that it's actually off a slightly low base?
Yes, it is. Well, good evening, and thank you. It is. You know, we're coming off the bottom of the trough of the cycle, and it is you know, the result is, you know, is fairly pleasing, but there's still, you know, tremendous opportunity for us to continue growing the business. You know, a big sector of our market, the construction sector, or the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Sector really hasn't shown any, you know, globally hasn't really shown any significant change. So a lot of what we're seeing is coming from our mining business.
Okay, so mining still being very much the focus. When you mentioned that perhaps the bottom of the trough, would you say that this is as bad as it's going to get, both in the mining industry and then also looking to the construction space going forward?
Well, yeah, the mining business has been particularly good for us. You know, certainly the sectors that we focused on. And but you know, in terms of the construction sectors, we've had some success in our European business. You know, really focused on some infrastructure spending and we've been, you know, fairly fortunate on some large contracts. But you know, domestically, you know, the construction sector is in relatively poor shape, and you know, pretty well much, you know, the same around the world.
Gary, when you look at your overheads, I know that you've had a significant improvement in this regard. Can this continue going forward, and is it going to have an impact in the next set of results, given the fact that you perhaps are going to stabilize at these levels when it comes to the overhead environment?
Yeah, well, you know, we have ramped up our production rates in the last. Certainly, it was a big change, a big increase in the last quarter of 2011. And we expect to be able to hold that rate through 2012. So yes, we don't expect any huge increase in terms of expenses and the assets required to support that level of production. So we should see an improvement, you know, going forward.
Let's look at forex risks going forward. We also know that a considerable portion of your revenue derived in foreign currencies. You've also embarked on a hedging strategy. How are you going to review this hedging strategy into this year, given the fact that there's just not enough clarity as to where the local currency could be going?
Yeah, we're pretty well hedged in terms of the foreign currency. You know, we export, you know, better than 50% of what we're selling. So it's generally into the hard currencies, and then and we do have some input costs which are you know, either dollar or euro based. So we've got a pretty good offset in terms of the foreign currency risk.
Okay, so let's also just touch on where you think the biggest growth prospects lie ahead. We know that the mining industry perhaps experienced quite a nice recovery in the last couple of years. Yeah. Many anticipate this to stabilize into this year. Where are you going to derive a lot of your business from into 2012? You know, government's promised a lot of money into the construction spending.
Yes. Well, yeah, I think, you know, from a construction point of view, we are really well positioned, certainly from a South Africa point of view. Our distribution network across South Africa is really the leading network at this point in time. Our product range for infrastructure building is as good as any of the other players. The fact that we are the only domestic producer does give us some advantage. So we are looking forward to you know, getting a bigger slice of the infrastructure or the construction spend. And then from a mining point of view, we also, you know, have seen, you know, through the trough, we've seen a lot of our major customers have extended the life of products. So rather than replacing machinery, they've tended to run them a little longer. And we're seeing a bit of pent-up demand coming through now, you know, which is kind of out of line with the increase in mining, because, you know, the mining business is not expanding at, you know, the 40 or 50% rate that we're seeing.
Well, you know, you're sitting with a record order book into this year. Is there a concern that any of these orders could actually not materialize?
Not at this point. We do monitor that obviously very, very closely, and you know, the global economy is important to certainly to most of the African commodity producers. So we're keeping a very close eye on that. We were obviously anxious as to what might happen in Europe, and there still, may well be some difficulties. But at this point in time, we're pretty optimistic about the outlook for the year.